know that there are real cats in Sonic Unleashed? So everybody knows the Sonic franchise has a couple of famous cats such as Blaze, and how can we forget the favorite cat of the franchise, Big the Cat? But in Sonic Unleashed, if you go into the Apato's hub world and you go right over here where a moon medal would be, you can see two cats right there. Look at them. They're so cute. Can I touch them? No, we can't. But that's a cool fact. I wonder why those cats can't talk like Blaze and Big can. In the 2012 remaster of Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, the reason why Sega changed the cross on the health item box was due to the Red Cross organization. Now, if you've ever played the mech shooting stages in Sonic Adventure 2, you're probably not unfamiliar with these item boxes right here, which give you health when you're playing the shooting stages. Prior to the 2012 HD version of the game, this is what the health boxes actually looked like. And if you notice in the middle, it has the Red Cross. The reason for this is because the Red Cross started cracking down on unauthorized use of their logo because they did not want people to reduce the severity or gravity of what the image meant. Hence, the reason why they changed it for SA2. Here's the next fact. Shadow the Hedgehog has a gun because of weird fan requests. Perhaps one of the most insane aspects about Shadow the Hedgehog from 2005 is the fact that he carried a gun, but there's a very specific reason for this. At the time, the head of Sonic Team was Yuji Naka, and his reasoning for giving Shadow this weapon was a ton of kids would write letters to Sega asking them to give Sonic a gun, but due to the fact that he was their marketable, lovable hero, it didn't really make sense to give him a gun, so they came up with the perfect solution in response to these fan requests, and they gave it to Shadow the Hedgehog. Clearly, it's been on Sega's radar to include some type of gun gameplay for the Sonic characters since they've been outsourcing it to people like E102 Gamma, the shooting stages with Tails and Eggman in SA2, but ultimately people would not be satisfied until one of the Hedgehogs was holding a gun, so we gave it to Shadow. Here's the next fact. There is an unreleased Sonic game called Sega Sonic Bros. Not to be confused, of course, with Super Mario Bros. Sega Sonic Bros was an unreleased video game in the Sonic the Hedgehog series, and for a very long time was considered to be lost media. This game was developed in 1992, but actual gameplay from it did not surface until July 2018. It's very similar to that Tetris, Dr. Mario, Puyo Puyo puzzle falling board type gameplay. And while it's not really a revolutionary game, it's still pretty cool that this eventually surfaced nonetheless. Here's the next fact. There were more episodes of Sonic X planned for the GBA, but they were canceled. So back in the day in the Game Boy Advance, they released something called Game Boy Advance Video, which allowed you to use Game Boy Advance cartridges, and if you plugged them into your Game Boy, you could actually watch episodes of your favorite TV shows on the go. There was one volume release for the popular Sonic anime Sonic X, and it included the first 2 episodes, and it's called A Super Sonic Hero. I had this myself. Volume 2 of Sonic X, called Chaos Emerald Chaos, was planned to be released for the Game Boy Advance Video, but unfortunately it was canceled for whatever reason. The concept for the creation of Sonic was actually a ball. As stated by the programmer Yuji Naka, the prototype for Sonic was a basic character just rolling through a tube inside of a life-size ball. If you think about it, the concept for the creation of Sonic the Hedgehog kind of sounds similar to Super Monkey Ball. As a matter of fact, he's actually playable in the game. This basic premise ended up being the system in which Sonic gameplay was developed and how the physics were made. As a matter of fact, there's no better example of the quote-unquote ball in a tube prototype that they had for Sonic than Chemical Plant. One of the reasons why Sonic the Hedgehog is blue is to match Sega's logo. So guys, this may be the ultimate test. According to my eyes, the logo of Sega is blue. And assuming my eyes don't deceive me and I've been colorblind and wrong my whole life, Sonic the Hedgehog is also blue. Naoto Oshima is one of the creators of Sonic, and he says the reason why Sonic's iconic color was purely chosen because Sega wanted him to match their logo color. Another reason why Sonic got this color and he was selected as Sega's mascot is because the company ran an in-house competition to see who could come up with the best idea. Clearly, the best idea was Sonic the Hedgehog, and that was from Naoto Oshima himself. Sonic the Hedgehog was conceptualized to have a sixth sense. If you've ever watched one of the most iconic Sonic cutscenes ever, which was the intro to Sonic CD, you will notice that in one of the frames, Sonic sneezes. The reason for this is that Sonic would have a sixth sense that would allow him to sense danger, so he would sneeze. As a matter of fact, there's even a hidden sprite that was featured in Sonic CD as well, although this did not make it into the final product. At one point in time, Sonic was depicted to be older than Knuckles. Once upon a time, before the widespread adoption of the internet, game companies used to give out manuals to players. These manuals would not only give you information about the game and how to play it, but also amazing artwork. They would give you lore, information, and fun facts about the character, but in a lot of instances of the Sonic the Hedgehog games, they would tell you how old the characters are. Sonic Jam was released in 1997 for the Sega Saturn, and this game was a collection of Sonic's history. So there was an in-game feature where you can go to the museum and check out some of the character bios. Just like Sonic 3 and Knuckles' manual, Knuckles is depicted to be age 15. In the same exact place where you could find Knuckles' character bio, you will also see Sonic's, and it says that he's 16. Most people know that Knuckles is canonically depicted to be age 16, so it's not really a big deal that he was 15 in the classic era era because that was the past. But if you look at the Sonic Heroes manual, it says that Sonic is 15 and Knuckles is 16, so they basically reversed ages. There's a secret message that can be discovered in Sonic 1 via cheat code. In an act of rebellion against Sega's prohibition of post-game credits, Yuji Naka included a displayed list of names that had all the parties responsible for creating the original Sonic game. This right here is what the credits look like, but the thing is, this is hidden. In the opening intro screen for the original Sonic game where it says Sonic Team Presents, if you type in a cheat code, it will allow the text to actually be visible. If you don't type in the cheat code, the text is black, which blends in with the background. There's a rumor that states that Tails was supposed to have blue shoes. So this right here is original Sonic the Hedgehog line work, but the coloring for the characters was done by a fan. This image went viral, which led a lot of people to believe that Tails was originally supposed to have blue shoes. Judy Totoya is the original creator of Tails, and he was actually asked about Tails having blue shoes in concept. Someone said, "Hi, just wondering, what's your opinion on this? There's some people that think Tails was originally intended to have blue shoes," and he responded and said, "I drew the line art for that picture, but it's the first time I've seen the wrong painted image. I don't know who did the painting. The color of the shoes is red from the beginning." Shadow the Hedgehog's super form was supposed to be a different color. If you look at the original Super Shadow in SA2, I like how the characters are metallic here, by the way, but Shadow has a little bit more of like a yellowish gold tint. Originally, this was not supposed to be the case. Super Shadow was supposed to be silver, so he would have looked a little something like this. Do you guys like this better than the current Super Shadow? Not sure. Nazo was originally supposed to be in Sonic X, so most people recognize this character from the iconic Sonic fan animation, but this is actually not where he originated. He was officially supposed to be in the series. At the end of an old trailer for the Sonic X show, this character appeared at the end. Allegedly, it was supposed to be either a redesign for Super Sonic or potentially a new form, but this is not a separate character. This is actually Sonic. Maybe it was supposed to be the reintroduction to Hypersonic, but it was scrapped, so it doesn't even matter. The original name for Sonic was going to derive from Lightspeed. In an interview, Yuji Naka was asked about the name Sonic and how they created it. His response to the question says, "We wanted something that would convey an image of speed. We liked the idea of Kosuku, Lightspeed in Japanese, but we couldn't find a good nickname with the words Lightspeed. We thought about Raisupi, which is a Japanese shortening of Ratio Supido and LS, but they didn't have any ring to them. Finally, someone came up with the idea of the speed of sound, and that led us to Sonic." There's an old Sonic the Hedgehog 1 advertisement that features something very similar to the Death Egg. The Death Egg was first introduced to us in the second Sonic game. There is no mention or visual of the Death Egg in Sonic 1. However, in this old commercial that starts with Sega Sonic the Hedgehog, by the way, and is fully animated, features a scene where Sonic is flying over to what looks to be the Death Egg. I am not 100% sure of the exact date where this commercial aired, but ultimately it is kind of interesting that there's no Death Egg in the Sonic series up until this point, but it's featured in an advertisement for Sonic 1. The first time Sonic ever spoke was in an arcade spin-off. The game that Sonic has his first voice lines in is Waku Waku Sonic Patrol Car, and it features Sonic as a police officer, but also it's like an interactable ride. When you play this quote-unquote game, you get a little video that plays, and this is what Sonic sounded like.
やあ、みんなこんにちは。俺の名前はソニック。俺の仕事は悪い奴を捕まえること。つまり、おまわりさんってわけさ。早速今日も街の平和を守るため、パトロールにファイ
Dr. Eggman also had voice lines in this game as well.
わしの名はドクター・エッグマン。邪魔な車は踏み潰すぞ。やめろ、エッグマン。ソニック、邪魔な奴ね。これでもくらえ。
Here's an X fact. In Sonic Mania, the Press Garden Zone was supposed to have a different name. Sonic Mania is a huge fan favorite game, and Press Garden Act is also a fan favorite level featured in the game. Allegedly, Press Garden Zone in Sonic Mania was originally supposed to be named Pulp Solstice Zone, which is kind of odd, honestly. In May 2017, a screenshot of what appears to be an unseen Sonic Mania level was used in a poster for Sega at a Las Vegas licensing expo. Clearly, in hindsight, this was meant to be Press Garden Act, but it certainly does look a little bit different, especially when you look at the sun, but also this area wasn't featured in the actual game. In addition to that, more evidence pointing towards the fact of this being an early name is due to the fact that in the music folder of the game's zone themes, this is called Pulp Solstice 1 and Pulp Solstice 2. In Sonic Adventure, Big the Cat is the only character you can unlock without meeting him in a cutscene. In my opinion, one of the most incredible and immersive aspects of Sonic Adventure when I played it growing up was the interactive hub world. One of the coolest things about the game is that you had 6 different stories going on at once, and sometimes during these intersecting stories, you would see the other playable characters in the hub world and you can actually speak to them. After completing the casino stage in SA1, in the hub world, you can actually walk up and find Big the Cat prior to seeing him ever in a cutscene. This will actually trigger an unlock for him, unlike the other characters where you have to meet them in a cutscene before they're playable.